One question that I get a lot here at Green Mountain at Fox Run is how you can modify recipes you have that are for baking, because baking is so much more of a science than other forms of cooking. One trick that is really good is adding more whole grain flour to a recipe. You have to be careful because sometimes if you try to go too far, you'll end up with something that tastes like cardboard, because whole wheat flour on its own isn't so delicious. So I always tell folks, try out your recipe with about 2/5 to 1/3 of the proportion of flour being whole wheat flour or another whole grain flour, and the rest being the all-purpose flour that was called for in the recipe. That's usually a good proportion to start with and play around with. Anytime you're modifying a recipe though, it's always a good idea to try it out just for yourself and your family, and not necessarily people who you're trying to impress, because you don't know if it's going to turn out great the first time. Some other ways you can modify recipes include flax meal is a very good substitute for eggs, in case you know someone who has an egg allergy. A tablespoon of flax meal and a little bit of water is equal to an egg in a recipe. And it makes sense because flax meal is protein and fat, just like an egg is. Beyond that, I wouldn't take the salt completely out of a baking recipe. It's needed for a lot of the chemical things that are going on in baking. And sweeteners are always something you can play around with too. I'm not a fan of artificial sweeteners. I prefer ingredients that I can pronounce really easily. So I'm more likely to add a little bit more maple syrup or honey instead of refined sugar, but keep a little bit of your refined sugar. It's all for play, so enjoy it.